Welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're tuning in. Today, we're going to demystify something that, well, feels like an impossible mountain to climb for so many of us, and that is writing and publishing a book. Whether you've got a brilliant idea for a nonfiction manuscript just burning in your mind, or maybe you're an educator looking to create the absolute perfect textbook for your students, we're going to break down this entire process. We'll go from the very first spark of an idea all the way to actually holding that printed book in your hands. All right, let's dive right into this.
So, you've made the big decision. You've decided to write a book. Congratulations! But now what? Seriously, that blank page can be incredibly intimidating, right? The ideas might have been swirling around in your head for years, or maybe clients or colleagues have been constantly urging you to put your expertise on paper. But knowing exactly where to begin, that's often the hardest part. Don't worry, though, because what we're going to build together today is a clear, highly structured roadmap to get you from that initial idea to a fully completed manuscript.
Here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We're going to start with preparation and goal setting, and then move right into structuring your manuscript. From there, we'll hit the actual grind in the writing phase, followed by cleaning it all up in editing and common mistakes. And finally, we will wrap things up with feedback, endorsements, and publishing.
Okay, let's kick things off with Phase 1, preparation and goal setting. Because the honest truth is, a successful manuscript starts long before you actually type your very first sentence.
You know, when you ask a new author who their target audience is, the temptation is almost always to just yell out, "Everyone!" And hey, we all want our ideas to inspire the whole world. But when you're actually sitting down to write, having a specific, concrete readership in mind is absolutely crucial. Targeting a niche audience, like, say, pediatricians if you're writing about children's nutrition, or maybe your specific client base, that is what keeps your work authentic, useful, and super focused. Trust me on this, a niche audience is almost always better than an audience that's just way too broad.
There is just incredible power in setting concrete goals. Take the number 60,000, for example. That's a very standard word count for a full-length nonfiction manuscript. And yeah, it sounds like a lot, right? But let's just do the math for a second. If you commit to writing just 1,000 words a day, which is really only about 3 typed pages, you are going to have a complete 60,000-word manuscript in exactly 60 days, just 2 months. Breaking that monumental task down into a daily word count makes it so incredibly achievable.
So, once your goals are locked in, it's time for Phase 2, structuring your manuscript. Organization right here is exactly what prevents total chaos later on when you're deep in the writing trenches.
So how exactly do we organize? Well, one highly effective strategy is the storyboard method. You basically start by emptying every single topic idea out of your head and writing each one down on a note card or a sticky note. Just get them out of your brain. Once they're all physically in front of you, you arrange them into a logical order. And feel free to just move them around until it really clicks. These grouped notes naturally develop into a solid outline for your chapters. From there, you simply pare that outline down to create your table of contents. It literally transforms your scattered thoughts into a rock-solid architectural framework for the entire book.
Now, if you happen to be tackling an educational textbook, the sources show us that prep looks a little bit different. The structure needs to be incredibly rigorous. I mean, before you even start writing, you should be doing market research and actually asking your students what they like or dislike about current textbooks. This is huge for boosting their motivation. Plus, your sources must be meticulously verified because you're directly shaping education here. You also have to decide on the whole architecture. Like, will the chapters be completely independent? Will the difficulty scale up as you go? And visually, you've got to plan for headings, subheadings, and summary boxes, so the information is highly digestible for the reader. All right, let's move on to our next milestone, Phase 3, the writing phase. This is where the rubber finally meets the road.
There's this tactile, continuous, almost rhythmic feeling to actually drafting your manuscript. And here's the secret. Once you have that solid outline we just talked about, you don't even have to write from beginning to end. Honestly, if it helps you keep your momentum going, you can just jump around to different chapters or topics whenever you feel like it. The crucial point here is consistency. Just stick to your planned schedule and make sure you're exercising that writing muscle every single day.
It is so incredibly important not to take ourselves too seriously during the messy first draft. Seriously, the absolute golden rule of the writing phase is simply this: just write. Give yourself full permission to get your thoughts down without stopping to edit yourself, and definitely without pausing to go down those endless research rabbit holes. Just get the content out of your head and onto the page. Remember, you can always return later to fix it up.
And speaking of fixing it up, welcome to Phase 4, editing and common mistakes. This is where we clean up that messy first draft and really establish your professional credibility.
Minor editing mistakes can unfortunately make readers doubt your authority, so let's hit a rapid-fire grammar lightning round of common manuscript errors.
First up, fewer versus less. You want to use fewer when referring to things you can actually count, like pencils, people, or dogs. Less, on the other hand, is used for the overall amount or volume of something, like water, sadness, or importance. So you wouldn't say, I have fewer water, you'd say, I have less water. It sounds simple, but it is so widely misused.
Next in our lightning round, it's versus its. It's with an apostrophe is always a contraction for it is. For example, it's raining today. It's without the apostrophe is a possessive pronoun, like in the sentence, its center was gooey. It's a tiny thing, but catching this one small detail vastly improves the professional clarity of your entire manuscript.
And finally, the infamous IE versus EG. People use these interchangeably all the time, and they really shouldn't. IE is Latin for that is, which means you are about to provide a definition or a clarification. But I found the most delightful trick for EG. Sure, it stands for exempli gratia, but it looks like the word egg. And egg kind of sounds like example. So whenever you mean to say, for example, just use the one that looks like an egg, EG.
Now, part of editing also means finalizing your research and updating all those citations. If you're a scholarly writer, you're likely using APA or MLA formats, but if you're self-publishing, leaning on something like the Chicago Manual of Style is highly recommended. You generally have two main options here. You can use simple in-text citations, basically just putting the author and date in parentheses right after the quote, or if that feels way too cumbersome for your flow, you can use endnotes. That's where you place a little superscript number next to the text, which maps to a numbered notes page at the end of the chapter or the book. The main takeaway, just pick one style and be consistent with it.
We are nearing the summit, folks. Phase 5, feedback, endorsements, and publishing. It is finally time to take this private document and turn it into a public printed work.
Before you go sending your manuscript off to a professional copy editor or a publisher, it's time for beta readers. Now, a beta reader is basically a layperson or a trusted peer who reads your work specifically to offer constructive criticism. They are just incredibly valuable for spotting inconsistencies in your concepts or even just telling you if a chapter's flow isn't quite working. And the best part? They do this all before you spend a dime on professional editing.
While you're going through the editing process, you'll also want to start seeking endorsements to put right there on your book jacket. You want to target well-known authors in your field and make sure you show up looking like a total pro. Whatever you do, don't beg or rant about being a first-time author. Keep your request email super brief, compliment their work, and succinctly explain your book. Oh, and the sources offer this fascinating, almost insider tip for this. Really busy authors will actually often ask you to write a few sample testimonials that they can just tweak and approve on their end. So go ahead and be prepared to draft your own glowing endorsements.
As we cross into the finish line here, formatting and publishing finally come into play. First off, you'll need to write an author bio. If your book is prescriptive, pack that bio with your credentials so readers know immediately that they can trust you. But if it's, say, a memoir, you can afford to be a bit more playful. Next up, make sure your book is visually engaging. Use tools like Canva or Illustrator to create your very own copyright-free diagrams and timelines. By the way, this is especially vital if you're writing a textbook. And finally, when you are actually ready to hold the physical book in your hands, you can use online printing services like DocsU to easily select your binding, your paper type, and your cover and print those physical copies.
Look, the writing and editing process can be long, and honestly, it can be exhausting. But I want to reignite your courage for a second with this absolutely incredible quote from Anne Frank. She wrote, "I can shake off everything as I write. My sorrows disappear, my courage is reborn." I just love that. Never forget the deep joy, the purpose, and the clarity that comes from sharing your unique knowledge and your personal stories with the world through writing.
I want to leave you with a famous saying in the publishing industry. There is no such thing as a final draft, only a last draft. It's so true. You could tinker and adjust your words for the rest of your life if you really wanted to. But at some point, you just have to take the leap. So, are you ready to declare your last draft and share your knowledge with the world? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. Now, get out there and go get those ideas onto the page.